But, I got,
You got an extra?
yeah, I got markers. We'll go ahead and start our meeting. Call our workshop to order, and this is a special called workshop for the court to look and have discussion in general related to our budget for the next fiscal year. Just a little background, our budget committee has met probably 3 or 4 times, and met with different department heads, fire and EMS in particular, and looked at requests and had conversations, and it's been a healthy process so far. The object of today's exercise is just to go over revenues and then some proposed expenditures. And I will say that there are questions about bigger ticket items that have not been answered in this draft. The goal is to have discussion and go from there. I do want to make mention that there is in the section under other social service programs, there's a listing of requests from community partners. Those requests are as received and do not reflect any opinion of the budget committee at all. Those are simply, I felt like the whole court needed to see those as is, and we could have conversation related to that. So as we get started here, looking at revenue, yesterday Michelle and I attended the revenue commission meeting. Through 3 quarters, receipts are very, I would call, are good. Counting both the occupational license fee and the net profit, we're over 15 million through those 3 quarters, with 3 quarters left. We budgeted last year, for example, on occupational license, we budgeted, I believe, 14. I'm trying to, my eyes are not as good as they once were. Michelle, help me out here.
Occupational was 14, net profit was 750.
Yes.
What we had budgeted.
So we budgeted 14 for license fee, and then that net profit was 750. So I feel confident that the last quarter we will cover those figures and better.
Judge, can I ask a quick question, Michelle? So before Judge Covenant got on the court, the county committed to some tax exemptions for Toyota, and it kind of staircases down. Where do you know where we're at with that? And
David had actually asked that question to Scott, and I have to look back.
We still have a few more years.
okay, it's just a couple more years
Yeah,
left.
we still have a few more of the original now.
A few more, it's not. They don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to roll right over into that next agreement.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well, that's generally how it goes.
Yeah.
Remember how many years were left in Toyota's exemption?
We've only got maybe 3 or 4.
I think it's 3.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
But then it'll roll over into this new potential agreement that's,
So there's another one coming down the pike?
well, yeah.
Well, it's kind of one that just continues, so I just was...
Yeah. But, you look at their hiring and,
Oh, yeah, I'm not questioning that.
yeah.
I just
Now,
want...
you can look down through there
Do what? I think so.
So, not yet. Not yet. Michelle, you want to make any comments about anything else that's in the revenue area? The rest of it's pretty consistent to what's happened in the past.
We do have another line item, which is that regulatory fee, for ABC. Nothing substantial, except we won't be receiving any revenue for, of course, for recycling, that's dropped off. But that's
So, the-
franchise.
so your general outlook on revenues is, I would call positive. So,
And with that being said, because our property tax is above the certain ratio, or we'll have to look at taking the compensating rate when it comes.
holding the rate or taking the compensating rate.
Yeah.
From what I understand, 80,000 plus compared to last year on property tax.
Yeah.
That was what Tim shared. Pardon?
New growth.
New growth is 80,000.
That's just bare minimum or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not as much as I would have thought.
I think that the appreciated value of the other ones, I've done it like over 120 or somewhere around there, and that's with us taking the compensating rate.
Oh, if we took compensating rate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, any questions on anything you see there regarding the revenues? Michelle, can you share, just on the carry, the surplus from year to year?
Well, basically, the surplus from year to year is a mix of investments and a little bit of a plug number to make everything balance, to be quite honest. But it is, all of our investments and cash on hand and different projects are rolled into that number.
So that's how that. Well, it's
For prior year, it's 49,001 on the revenues.
but he doesn't have that. He just got this. He just has the.
Well, it's gonna be in your packet, the second from the last page.
Very bottom of the,
Are the revenues.
the last page, yeah. 4901.
Second to last page has general, revenues for general, road, and jail, and then the last page.
Okay. You see that, Dwayne?
So you're talking about compensating rate, what would the rate go to?
Well, we're at .62.
Has he told
We
you?
haven't seen that yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
It's too early,
So June, or July is when we
right,
get that.
okay.
but the estimated funds from growth compared to last year is about $80,000. And it's, I would have thought it'd been a little bit more, but it is what it is. Still a strong, number
Yeah. Well,
with the lowest rate as we have. And everybody needs to understand, like, I haven't went and counted it, but like we're in the bottom 10 in the whole state. And Alvin's holding up 5. I think we were tied a couple places, and it's been a year since I counted it, but I would say Alvin's correct.
That was about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We teeter tot around 5, 6, and 7.
Any other questions?
the county spent money on working on doing some foreclosures with the city. And I did see where one of them over, I think, in Boston area had been on the foreclosure list. But we put some money, and then in turn, we would recoup. Are they still moving forward with that stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what did you say about, I think Michelle was commenting about, y'all went to a meeting recently?
Yesterday, we had the Revenue Commission meeting
Okay. And so what's the results of that?
for,
Track?
through three,
Because the old budgets, you had 750,000.
and he didn't share, he didn't break it down by net profits or,
Well, just say, just to give you through March of this year, net profits, we had received 1.72. So we're over what we budgeted. But you know that net profit has dropped drastically, over the last, 5 years?
it's very volatile, and I really think it's just like, we shouldn't budget for, it's like icing on the cake.
Well, yeah, you got a, I'm looking at the new one, I've got them both out here. Yeah, so you got a pretty strong number this time,
Yeah,
1.5.
yeah.
Figured we could probably raise that a little bit since we were at least at 1.7 through March, just to be a little bit more.
Accurate, trying to be,
Right? No, that's what I was looking at, that difference.
Yeah.
And that explains it.
yeah.
Thank you.
No, good question, Rick. Anything else that stands out or questions related? So, we can go down through department by department and kind of follow along on the general fund, and then come back and do road and jail as well. In the general fund, on judge executive, I did, we've met a few times. Today, after talking with a couple vendors, I added, and it's in the, it's not in the, under judge executive office, but it's in the courthouse. And we'll add to it, or I'll mention it, but the budget committee had met, and that's one place that I changed an estimate to add some funds to under the judge executive is for data processing, and that's where we could have a potential contract with a vendor to provide boots on the ground for IT support here. So when I get down to it, I'll talk about it. But if you're just looking there at Office of County Judge Executive, nothing essentially other than just the cost of living has changed. And then, of course, from last year, some salaries have gone up a little bit, but by the state legislature dictating that. But there's really no changes under that area. County attorney, essentially very close to what we had last year in the hopper. Last year the actual budget was $892. This one's $894 and some change. And if anybody has any questions, just stop me.
Is there a COLA in these salaries? at
So,
all?
Michelle, what do you have in this?
I can't find my
The
other one.
wages is, the proposed that we're showing there is 2%.
So, since you asked, Alvin, I have the data, and I'll share after this. I just didn't have time to print it. But if we're talking about, that's the wage. Alvin's got a copy. So if we look at this year's wages alone, $14,833,000. If we did a 2% wages alone, would be $15,222. If you go up to 3%, wages are going to be $15,679,643, and a 4% would be it's $15,831,873. So if you're looking at that different, the differentiation between this year's wages and a 4%, let's just stop at 4%. That's you're comparing 14,833,000 to 15,831,000. You might as well
It's $1 million.
call it $1 million at 4%. Now, if you start looking at total, total cost for employees, like for all employees, and Michelle, you stop me if I'm wrong. We're right now we're at 26,499,000. Now, if you go to 4%, you're going to go up to 27,855,000.
That's sustainable.
What percentage, what overall percentage is cost of employees on the budget? Do we have?
I don't have that right this second, but we can give that. Yeah. But if you go up to 4%, you're looking at a little bit over 1.3 million total difference. Follow me?
Jeff, that's stated currently with everything in play right now, 52.962% of the budget is employee benefit and wage.
That's all benefits and
All.
wage, 52%,
General road debt.
a lot less than I anticipated.
So my question is that sustainable?
Is that sustainable?
Yeah.
Going up 4% every year? I don't know if that would be possible, but I do know that our and Jeff, you feel free to add at any time, and anybody. I do know that with inflation, it's been a that in itself's been a factor influencing our employees, and if we could swing 4%, I believe that would be a positive that would impact our employees and keep our compensation level moving in the right direction. Jeff, you want to make any comment?
I would agree with that. I mean, we share some data that at least the cost of labor we know, without a doubt, is around 3%. I know that some other organizations are providing increases greater than that. And then you have what's going on with the CPI too. And I don't have to say this, Jeff knows this, but the thing to keep in mind also is we have not raised the cost of benefits for the employees for 5 years now. And it's been going up, I don't know how much, 5, 6%, 2 to 8% somewhere every year. What, the health insurance? Yes. Now, remember, we talked about that, it's been flat. Okay. We probably didn't pass on any cost because the plan was operating at a good level, so. Because we're varsity stuff. Right. And because of us carving out the pharmacy like we did, we're getting right now $250,000 in rebates a year on pharmacy. So that ended up being a really good move for us. So no, we would probably be looking at passing on more expense if the health insurance rates were going up. Yes.
Let me ask Michelle a question. This might help me grasp it a little bit better. So if our salaries are going up $1 million, and take out all the other things like gasoline and capital projects, and how much more are we going to have in revenue this year? And that's what I mean is, can we sustain to keep going forward?
I mean, is our increase in revenue going to sustain our increase in wage?
There you got it.
Well, alone, it looks like, with the revenue commission, what we're budgeting, we're already budgeting, about $1,750,000 to $1 million, right there, we're going up $1 million, that's gonna cover the cost of the wages.
Okay. Yeah, that answers my question.
Okay.
I think another cost you got to look at too is just the retention. I mean, because when you have EMS and police, sheriffs and fire that leave, and then you have to train them again, because that's how we've seen, even when they've spoken up here, you know, it's not, I don't want to say the loyalty, but people are bouncing around now whenever they go to the highest one, so.
Yeah, they're not paying attention to retirement.
Oh, yeah.
It's the highest dollar.
Well,
They're doing their own business.
Yeah.
Well, and also what you gotta remember too is that since 2014, everybody's in tertiary retirement. So the retirement benefit is not quite the draw that it used to be. Well, but not emergency services, right? Emergency services are still 20 years.
No.
And they changed too? Okay.
But we can get out of that if we chose, but we have to, everybody get out.
Richmond did that. You have, but anybody that's already in it, you have to continue.
That's
pay.
right, yeah.
So if you're not turning over much, then it doesn't do you any good. You can find out what the cost is to buy your way out, but it's quite exorbitant. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do that. I don't think we've done it.
Tim mentioned what I was gonna say, we've been battling retention issues already, and if we don't try to keep current, it's only gonna get worse. Looking at 8.5% inflation, hopefully that doesn't continue, we can pull back later.
You may have noticed I sent a note to all staff trying to recruit for some positions because I can't get people to apply.
Okay.
Paramedic, EMT.
Road crew laborer, 0 candidates, and I can't believe I cannot get a candidate for putting on better right now. Can't even get a person to apply.
Okay.
If there's no other questions, we'll move on down there to county clerk. And, you know, total expenditure there is 1.3 million. Last year is 1.272. Very, very minimal increases. Now, we did have to move this document storage fee to its own line. Is that correct, Michelle? That's mandated by its own fund. That's what I meant.
So now we have general, road, jail, LGA, Crack Hospital, and county clerk storage fund.
So that's not in this,
It's on down.
It's one of the special.
Yeah.
It's back there with the hospital and Crack.
right, but it's not listed under the office of county clerk. Okay,
Right. It's broken
Yeah.
out.
Some separate.
gotcha.
And that's by DLG.
Right, yeah, Michelle explained that to me the other
yeah.
day.
Looking at Sheriff's Department, of course, we approved, the salary cap back earlier in the winter, but look.
Salary cap only is about half of this.
Okay. Looking at what we budgeted last year, 3.834, proposed would be 4.423. In that is some, of course, lease agreements for vehicles, $45,000 for radios. Gasoline goes up. Michelle and Stacy and utilities have gone up a little bit. That's where you see just a little bit, difference as well.
Did you say the 220 was the lease we just did under vehicles there?
Yes. Yes, sir. Instead of it'd been over in 700 some thousand if we'd done it the other way. Any questions about Sheriff's Office? And please know that my thought process too is, next Friday we're gonna have another work session, and then our hope is to have on May 13th a first reading, so we can have discussion further on, between now and next Friday, and try to get everything lined out in everybody's head.
I was looking at another line. Would you repeat that, what you were saying with Kelly about the vehicles?
220,000.
Yeah, I see that, but
That's the lease.
that was that the lease?
Yeah. We're going to do that for we're going to pay that for 3 years. and there's 10 new vehicles.
10 new vehicles, 220 a year,
Yeah,
and then at the end of 3 years.
we own them.
Does lease own like 3% interest?
Yeah, I was looking at
Yeah, but there was still the opportunity, if we wanted to cut the interest out, we can. But you just used that lease agreement figure, which
Yeah.
is the higher number. Gotcha.
Office of Coroner, trying to look back here.
You want to talk about what we had talked about, Jeff, look at? The deputies?
Yeah, absolutely. And this number reflects, Michelle, this number reflects 2 deputies, correct? We're statutorily required by our population to include 2 deputies in this,
At least.
at least 2 deputies. Right now, we are funded at 3 deputies. Are you sure if if this one reflects 1 or 2 or 3? All right. No pressure. But, you know, you can see, you know, it was 99,000 last year, and we got it at 94,000. I think it reflects a reduction.
Well, what they were doing is they were getting a straight like salary instead of a stipend. So if you did no runs or you
Right.
went on 10 runs, you did. And Jeff researched it and said we couldn't do it like per diem or per run. So
It has to be so much per month.
yeah,
Somebody could work the whole month and work every day or go out every time, somebody not do it, and they get paid the same.
that's right.
Yeah, that's what's going on right now.
That represents that number of
Okay. So Michelle feels like that represents 3. You do have the option of going to 2. You know, but you have to pay him by the month. Jeff, was there anything else we could have done, we can do to, you know, along lines? The statute requires, according to Rich Hornstein, that they have to be paid on a monthly basis.
It'd be ideal if they could be paid per run or start receiving wages then, but you can't do that.
So, my belief is, if you're going to be paid, you ought to be, you know, even if you're on call, but you get no calls that week, you know, but you still got to be working.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there any way we can have a minimum required participation or a minimum activity to remain on the payroll? It's,
I think if you cut the positions to 2, I would think that you'd have more work to do
Yeah.
because you're gonna need help. The coroner's not gonna be there for every single, if they take a vacation or a sick day or on another call, I would think that then you definitely would be activating your pay standpoint.
So,
Like you have to have
But who-
4 deputy coroners.
yes, sir.
Just for knowledge, who drives that? Is it not the coroners being I don't know this answer.
The court can set the salaries
Right,
and the amount of money budgeted in the budget.
right.
Then the constitutional officer can,
Would set all the,
they
work-
essentially set their practices.
that's what I would have thought that how it was, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
They get volunteer responder calls right now too, which is reducing the need for the paid workers to respond to calls.
So,
Yeah, but those paid workers are still getting paid.
That's right.
correct.
paid, is he paid on both? As EMA director and as deputy coroner, yes.
He just gets stipend per.
No, he gets paid stipend. Any other questions about that or feelings?
Or feelings?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how it worked.
Yeah.
Next one is fiscal court. Any questions or comments there? PVA, statutory contribution required at 180. Board of Assessment Appeals, nominal $500 requirement. County treasurer, just the bump there. HR director, same thing. Now, Michelle can help us. We've added this ABC administrator. As we move forward, ABC administrator will become more active. It kind of comes in waves on Michelle. Michelle's serving as our ABC administrator. Some of those funds can be used to offset her salary cost, just as well as if we use those funds for enforcement, for what else, Michelle?
Just supplies and training and conferences and miscellaneous.
Yeah. So those funds will grow, and I think that will be something to keep an eye on in the future. But it's just a positive because it's a revenue stream that we did not have before. That
ABC has in the past month really picked up.
yeah.
So how many licenses have you issued for the county?
5.
Out in the county?
But we have two, right now we have, we're getting quite a few requests for temporary events. Like
Oh.
old friends and stuff like that. We haven't,
So they've been
this time of year.
truck,
Do I-
just bring in like a temporary, food truck type situation, right?
Something like that, yes, out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many actually established
We have,
brick and mortar, I
You
guess,
get a special license.
we've issued 5.
in the county?
Yes, we have 3 pending additional.
Out in the county? Well, that's all you deal with is county, right?
And the thing is, I found that the state has, like this past week, the state had assigned one to the city, and it was just sitting there. And the person reached out to me, because I don't have access to that on the portal, because the city does not, I have no access to see it. And they asked me if I had received the ABC information that is ready to be approved. And Kentucky ABC has signed the city, they wrong, it's all due to voting precinct. And so they didn't know the right voting precinct, so it's to the city, so they had to reassign it. It's just
Coming to the county, in other words.
county. That happened quite a bit.
Any questions? Moving on down, this data processing line is where I added money today outside the budget committee, and it's based on conversations I've had with a couple vendors about contracting for IT boots on the ground to help us through some projects that we've got to get finished. And some, just to give you an example, it's moving our email from qx.net to Microsoft Exchange server, moving some of our servers that have not been migrated to the Madison County Data Center, upgrading some hardware and operating systems that need to be done. that's really outdated. So I told Michelle to add $50,000 to what was in there from the budget committee. I hope to have more data to share with you all about cost estimates between now and next Friday, and that would influence that number. So that's easy clocking. That's the pay. That's where our folks clock in and out. Fiscal Soft, the Madison County data centers that coming out of that. The Studio 46 is also doing, that comes out of there for the streaming service that they do for us. So,
What about social media?
yeah, I'm sure that's where we take that out of as well for Sandra Jean. She's a bargain.
Sandra Jean's been coming out of a different line.
She has.
Yes, she's coming out of, the temporary, part-time personnel.
Okay. All right. Thanks for clarifying that. Any questions about that line? Law library, $600. It's required. Then moving down, the election officers line, we're showing 187.5 for what's proposed. That includes a significant $95,000 expenditure. It's a new printer for voting machines. Is that correct, Michelle? I can't read the edge of that.
But honestly, last year, it's a print on demand, so there would be no ballots needed.
But we have the paper ballot. We have the paper ballot on those new machines that are there for backup. And we're actually, just to let you know, I think we're getting $115,000 back refund from the state on our voting machine expenditures.
Good.
So, matching share on planning commission last year was $544. This year's $631.
I got a question about that. So,
Shoot.
Did it reflect? Is it going to reflect the cost of living adjustments that the county puts in?
No, they've got a 5% in there. That's.
So I got an issue with that. I mean, let's just say that we give our employees 4% or 3%, and they give 5%. I think they should match us.
That's a conversation we can have.
That's what's always happened. We typically in the past have we've budgeted what they've asked for, and then the city comes in less, and we match the city.
Okay.
Overall budget on interlocals.
Okay.
And so, and when I mean in the past, I mean prior to this administration. And so, I agree with you.
So if they say 5%, we still end up matching, the city comes in less.
Well, the city's not gonna come in less because they're talking about, unless they change their thinking right now. Because I think the city's talking about 5%. So that's, for all their
But just to communicate to you all, I've had preliminary discussions with Mayor Prather about a few things involving interlocals and Parks and Rec, but we have not nailed down numbers yet. So that's why I'm just trying to go over.
But you understand where I'm coming from.
No, I respect what you're saying 1,000 times. If this body wants me to go to P&Z and say, hey, we're going to recommend 4, we'd like you to consider doing the same, we can do that. Or we can just say we're only allocating X that will fund 4. So.
Well, why don't you just continue to have conversations with Mayor Prather, and then
All right.
get back to us on that.
This next one, economic development. That's a $50,000 request plus $262,500 that that's for remaining gas main construction at Lanes Run Business Park. I will tell this body right now that I have worked very hard and worked with Scott United and Ted Abernathy on a strategic plan for economic development for our community. We're waiting on the final recommendation, but the preliminary recommendation includes adding 2 staff members. And one of those staff members, their primary job is marketing Georgetown and making sure existing infrastructure is ready to sell to prospective businesses. I think we need to do that. Now, how that ends up rolling out is something that we can discuss. But if we want more jobs that are diverse, that give more opportunities in Scott County, it is my opinion that we have to have an economic development arm that is marketing our community. Now, along the same lines, I've been working and I've gone to several meetings with Commerce Lex and talking about a regional marketing branding effort to help the whole Bluegrass region market and try to attract new business. And the thought process is that what we do will mirror and align with the region and will complement each other. So we don't have hard figures on any of that, but, I think it would be worthwhile once we get, or maybe even now, to have a report from Jack and some of the members of Scott United about the strategic plan and have a dialogue between this body and that organization.
Is tourism involved in that group?
Tourism is in, Lori comes to all Scott United meetings, yes.
But are they officially a part of that group?
Yes.
Okay.
She's a member of that. And tourism has to, and branding, I think has to be a part of that.
Judge, if we are looking at potentially spending county tax dollars on economic development, then is it wise that we give Scott United an additional $10,000 as compared to what they had last year? You see what I'm saying?
Where's the money that Toyota gave?
That money is helping pay for part of the economic development strategic plan. There's they have a reserve of cash as well that's that helps run the business park and such. But I think it would be a good thing for us to do is have dialogue with Scott United and this body face to face.
Are they still meeting once a month?
Once a month.
Is that open to the public?
Public library, oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and if they could bring their budget.
Has Scott United ever been to a court meeting and had dialogue?
To discuss the Scott United?
Well, just discuss.
No, it's always been for tax incentives.
Right.
That's it.
So, I
Joe, they claimed in the past, there's been open records requests done on their budget and spending and all that, and there's been claims in the past that they're not subject to open records, if I recall. So.
I would not believe that would be accurate.
But if we're gonna give 50, I think we get asked to see their budget.
Oh yeah, and I can get that. But here's what I think. I can tell you all what's going on, but I think if there's a dialogue
I'd
before,
like to see them right here.
yeah,
I agree.
I think that it's valuable. I do think the work that Ted Abernathy and the group's done is very positive, but it's going to take money to get it done. And You all need to see it and hear it and ask questions to buy into it, is my opinion.
Is
Let's do
that, who's Ted Abernathy? That's,
He's a consultant, highly regarded, Greenville, South Carolina. Well, no, lives out of North Carolina,
isn't that the fellow that was,
at the chamber.
okay. That's
Yes.
what, I thought that's what his name was, but.
Yes,
I'm assuming the city
does the same,
does the same.
yes.
The only a lot of the development that they drive ends up where?
Lanes Run Business Park.
So it gets into the city. They always
Well, but that's,
capture it.
Well, we still collect.
no, we collect. And that's a joint,
Joint program.
joint, yes, yes.
I have the same reaction, but when I have to say back, well, we do collect net profits and
Gotcha.
payroll and property.
I just know that any big thing usually ends up getting in the service boundary into city limits, stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's, we both collect. So, moving on down, I'm going to invite a group, because, I've had questions from y'all outside this meeting. Of course, when we're having this discussion, it's evident that you all would like to have a little bit more insight and
I think
hear.
it should be a standing once a year or so
Yeah,
conversation.
no, I think it's positive. This next line item is really just the courthouse. And the big difference between the two is utilities. We ramped up utilities a little bit, and that's,
Let me speak to something.
Yes.
In there is a vehicle for the judge, and he doesn't know I'm getting ready to say this, but I felt like that it was important that Judge Lesby has a four-wheel drive vehicle because, or Judge. All right, Judge Lesby, that's gone. But Judge Covington has that vehicle because
I can't get out.
he can't get out, and
He's got to get a ride from JR.
that's right. And
I do have.
and you've closed the court, and I've been in the car with him at 7:00 in the morning trying to figure out whether or not they were going to close the courthouse down, and I feel like it's important that we have that. So.
Well, I appreciate you putting that in there because you did put that in there. didn't you?
Well, I think it's
I will say
important.
it's not enough. To
Can we
cover.
repurpose a truck or a Suburban or something?
Well, when we go down through here, I'll take a old pickup truck, but that's well, we'll see if we can get a cost from JR about what we might, and we'll revisit that next week.
That's what's encouraged to get a Toyota.
Do we have to buy off state contract?
Yeah, we need. Well, I don't have to, but
Yeah.
if we buy something new, we should. And it's hard to find a used vehicle. You can't find a used vehicle.
Yep.
Or a new one, by the way.
Yeah.
But going down through there, it'd be positive. I think you need to support your local manufacturer if you could. But the next line down through there, court facility, custodial supplies, all that, that's the Justice Center. Now, next line is Great Crossing Park. And very similar to last year, except for there's money put in there for a metal storage building. He has really no place to, and we're not talking about a big one. We're just talking about something to put mowers, a little bit more of equipment, and secure it.
Where would that go?
That's the problem halfway.
Down there by the pump station.
That's where we've thought, but I don't like it down there.
Yeah, that's so far away from.
But you wanted it away from the fields, just a little piece. And, and I wish that we were talking about adding a playground at Great Crossing. And, it's obvious that that's a need out there, but here's the reality. Brooking Park, the whole, Kim Rice is recommending that the whole playground be replaced. It's the number one used playground in Scott County. We did not get the land and water grant money that she had talked about. So what she's going to be asking in her budget is, I think, about $250,000 from us for that $500,000. So in my mind, let's upgrade Brooking and then come back and look at this later. Or the consideration in my mind is to upgrade the one. And she says there's a lot of safety hazards at Brooking that have to be addressed.
But Judge, there's a land and water grant already on Brooking Park. Doesn't it make more sense to keep looking, kind of next year, look for those funds again? Whereas if they try to tie it in, you know what I'm saying, try to Great Crossings.
No, she wasn't. I wasn't talking about putting land and water.
Yeah, I know, but
and she hadn't mentioned that to me either. All I'm saying is the need is now, and they did not get that money.
yeah. But if we have $250,000 we're going to spend on playground equipment, we'd be, in my opinion, if we're going to look at doing it at Great Crossings Park, we'd be better served to put that money there and then continue to try to get a land and water grant on a park that already has a land and water grant on it.
I'm just sharing her professional recommendation.
I think it's lived beyond its useful means.
I've got plenty of those.
But I asked her, I said,
They're 40 years old.
I asked her if any of that equipment could be recycled, and she feels like it couldn't. And, maybe it's something we go out there with her and look at. But I'm just telling you, her recommendation is that we put money on Brooking Park to get it straight now, because they did not get the land and water. Now, we could wait and go back to the land and water one more year if that's what this court wants to do.
What would 250 get you?
A whole 250 from us, 250 from the city. And I cannot speak for the city.
Well, would the city put money in? They didn't put money in Great Crossing to begin with.
I'm not
They
talking
didn't
about
put-
Great Crossing.
They didn't put money in the
I'm saying if
Brookings.
you decided to do Great Crossing, instead of doing the land, instead of doing out at Brooking, you waited one more year and you said, well, let's do something at Great Crossing. What would 250 buy you?
250 buys you, so 2 years ago, 100,000 bought me 3 pretty good sized pieces, Creekside Elementary playgrounds, it cost me about 100,000. So I know that we want something bigger than that. 250 would buy you several pieces, swing sets and stuff like that.
But she's, David, her request and everybody else, her request, the way it framed to me would be 250 from us and 250 from the city for Brooking Park. That's,
Can we see what we get for $500,000?
I can ask her to.
We commit to it?
Yes, I can ask her. So,
I would like to do it.
When they first
can you come get me, and one day we just do it this week? Yeah. All right.
Pick up Judge Lester,
All right,
too.
moving on down.
I have a question about Great Crossing Park though.
Yes, sir.
So it's got utilities on here for $6,000, but they're charging $21 an hour for.
And I asked her that.
to
Nobody has had to pay the $21 night fee at Great Crossing yet. Now, she says this summer they will, and that'll come back to us.
Do we get the money back from Brooking Park is used? Because we pay the utilities out there too.
No.
No, we don't there. But Great Cross is a little bit different.
That's right.
Well, but we still pay the utilities out of Brooking,
Yeah,
whether Lois Holmes Field or Sutton Field.
that's correct.
And so,
But nobody has paid the $21 light fee yet. And
I think
to
that
be,
$21 light fee is ridiculous.
I wish we didn't do it. It doesn't matter, but she does it because she wants to do it because she wants to have it consistent with what they do at all the other parks.
Who pays the utilities out at Marshall or,
Parks and Rec.
so we're paying utilities at all of ours?
Except at Suffaletta, Scott County Youth Baseball pays the electric for the batting facility. Yeah,
Well, but that's not.
yeah, no, I'm just want to be sure I was clear.
Yeah.
So they rent, build, and pay, and they have to pay a $21 fee?
If they choose to use the light or go that lane.
They go at light. But I would prefer that we waive that.
Just having into the daggone overall without.
We can talk to her about it. And just telling everybody as we speak about Great Crossing Park, I think this court should consider next spring. You can't speak of just Scott County Youth Baseball. You have to speak of Scott County Youth Softball. It is my thought that when they start their youth seasons, this year Scott County Youth Softball declined an invitation to use Great Crossing Park for practices. But next spring, I think we have to have the conversation of do they want to use the weekends in the spring, and then when June comes, we transition to having tournaments, tournaments through October. Now, there would be one exception, like this past weekend. Great Crossing High School hosted a tournament at Great Crossing Great Crossing Park. We might be able to, it's this coming weekend.
Scott County did it 2 weeks ago.
So what I would propose is 2 of those weekends be reserved, one for Great Crossing High, one for Scott County High, to be able to host tournaments at our facility. Then the rest of it could go to Scott County Youth Baseball or Softball for their game schedules. I mean, does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
We can discuss that later. This next line, I believe, is Judicial Center or other county properties, and then Judicial Center is after that. That's just, for your different cleaning, utilities, telephones. Yes.
We're running out of time. Do you want to jump to the big stuff?
Yeah, you want to jump down to,
I mean, that's the main.
Well, let's go back to the next page, where you're going to go to code enforcement. Is that building electric, is that still the same? The electric's,
City back out on that.
Code enforcement includes, the building inspection, electrical, there at West Clinton, and code enforcement.
so what are those individuals?
Individually, building inspection is 296,608.5, electrical, Clinton is 25,200, and code enforcement is $190,190.25.
Okay.
but if you look down one lower, electrical, since we manage, is broken down and itemized.
Hey, Michelle, you want to hit them numbers one more time? You mind?
Sure. Building inspection, 296,608.50.
All right.
Clinton building is 25,200.
What building?
Electrical.
And the electrical, where building inspection and electrical both house is 25,200. And code enforcement is $190,190.25.
So, jumping down to fire, if you look at their line item 2.788807 for firefighters, that reflects no additional staff, correct, Michelle?
Correct.
Now, there was a request from Chief Ward for 5 additional firefighters for the next 3 years. Chief Ward also requested an administrative assistant. I can't support 5 additional firefighters for the next 3 years. We've added staff at that department. You know, the only proposition that I would consider right now is one for each shift additional that would give them, you know, instead of having to have overtime or mandatory callback or whatever, you would have that one person that would be there for when somebody's out, or one person when somebody's, you know, we have two firefighters out on disability, right? And you know, they're operating 3 per truck at the stations, but at 2200, they have, if they're full, they have 6 plus a battalion chief. So that's where they're at right now, and you know, that's for your all's, you know, chew on that. I'd take any comment right now from anyone that wanted to discuss that. Any comments or questions there?
I think the biggest concern would be to make sure that the 2200 Station 1, that we just always have available to be able to have 2 apparatus rolling out. Because right now they're having to jump basically between rescue, ladder, whatever the piece of equipment may be. They end up going out on a ladder that, you know, Rick has something out there that's a fire or something. I think that's the crucial thing, and I think with 3 additional, you can do that.
That would certainly help it, wouldn't it?
But now, Judge, we've added how many additional firefighters in the last few years?
We had 3 last year.
3 last year.
And then we did 3 before,
Yeah.
the year before,
Yeah.
July of 19, and then 3 in 2021. So we've added 6.
What is that? Is that staffing though at 1 though? Is it consistently 3 and 2, or is it?
No, it's 3 and 2.
Just sounds. Just
Help me understand what 3 and 2.
I'm sorry. Well, we need to have 3 people on apparatus. My understanding is that if there's 3 people, if they have 5 people at that station, then basically they'll jump on rescue. All 5 of them will go on rescue.
Well, if they're fully staffed and nobody's out, they have 6 there plus a battalion chief.
Okay.
But if somebody's out, he sends from 2200 out to cover and make sure we keep 3 on a truck. So that's where it gets.
It almost, I mean, as far as the hiring additional, I just think it would be crucial if we just figure out how to at least backfill to where we always had 3 on each of those out there. If you understand.
No, yes, sir, I do.
That's the biggest thing that we have to make sure, because then you have 2 apparatus that you can go out for different things. You may have something on interstate or rec, and then you may have something else coming down. But having to kind of bounce back and forth, kind of get control.
So that's a thought. Any other comments down here? Or?
Well, just, and I'm sorry, I walked right back into the middle of this, but would that not be one of the reasons why we have automatic game? That's,
I don't think.
to fill those holes where if we can't get everything that we need out, the city can also jump in, or vice versa.
That's just strictly for structure fires or major events. If you end up having.
I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right.
No, I thought automatic game.
Like if there's something down in the trailer park, Georgetown responds first. Yeah, but that's not a structural fire.
I'm talking about if you have something out at Station 1, if you have something on the interstate, and you're going out there, a lot of times we're probably gonna be tied up in the city, is what I'm saying. You just can't guarantee that, is what I'm saying. I just think it makes sense to have 2 apparatus being able to be filled in there, because you have different apparatus. You have ladder truck, you have the engine, you have a tanker, you have rescue apparatus. I mean, it's all different, you know, you need it for different things. I think it's crucial that we do that.
We can.
Well, one of the things we did look at, we thought that the trucks are in desperate need, and Judge, you're probably
So
going to
let me transition next. So we're not going to answer that tonight.
Yeah.
There are 3 requests for trucks. One is for a ladder that would replace a 20-year ladder truck, 1.6 million estimate. And then the 2 smaller engines that have been requested are in the teens old, like 13 to 14 years. They're there's a true, yeah. So those costs are, I think, Michelle, tell me if I'm correct, 860,000 estimated?
Yes.
So Alvin and I, budget committee's talked, if Chief Ward, Chief Ward would like to have all 3. I don't think that's possible. And the other piece of information is that if we ordered those trucks today, it's 24 months before you could get them in. So and having a functioning ladder truck is very important it's unique because you can only use that ladder for it's not as flexible. When you have a fire, and Tim chime in, but you got to have a functioning ladder, and the ladder is the oldest you can't get parts for it. So I think, Alvin, you speak to what you mentioned.
It also reduces our ISO rating,
Right,
because we have the ladder truck.
Yeah, I was thinking that since we do have the ARPA funds available now, it's a good time to replace that big ticket item, that ladder truck, plus possibly one engine. But the issue of getting them in, I don't know what budget year they're going to hit. That's going to be the other issue.
So, would it be possible to order a ladder and an engine, knowing that let's pay, hopefully pay for the ladder out of next year's budget, and then pay for the engine out of the next year's budget, and just go ahead and order it now? Now,
Are those requests in this budget that we're looking at?
no, those requests are not in here,
Oh, they're, okay.
but that was,
Will you get those to us as well so we can kind of
I'd be
chew
happy
on that?
to, yes, sir. That's what the budget committee, we.
Right, I see Alvin's got a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a $2.5 million investment.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no, I don't.
It's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care to share.
No.
Y'all know me.
Yeah.
But so that's the next big ticket consideration that's there with the fire department. And then there's monies in there for paving the parking lot. The back of the parking lot is really in bad shape. I think it's about 120,000, 140,000. And then there was their burn. This is 2200 Cincinnati Pike, Station 1. You know where I'm talking about?
Not bad paving, that's what I'm trying to.
The paving in the back's really bad. Front's okay. But they've also requested on that line, like their training facility, and Tim helped me, the boxes, the metal boxes, 35,000 to replace those. They're kind of burnt out at this point. And then I actually added and asked Chief Ward to get a cost estimate for putting an epoxy surface on the floor at 2200 Cincinnati Pike for the whole bay, because it's just a constant carousel of painting and maintenance. And Dwayne's shaking his head there. He knows that carousel, and that would be approximately 30,000. So that's an additional increase there. I'd like to jump on down, because we're going to go about 5 more minutes, and then we'll take a break before our main meeting. EMA department, nothing of significance changing from last year to this year, but I want to add something for your all's consideration myself, and I would not put it in the EMA budget, because it does not impact directly the city. There are tornado severe weather shelters that can they look like a long cylinder. They come in on a truck and they're set on a concrete slab, and they are rated for an EF5 tornado. One shelter that's about 64 feet long, about 12 feet wide, can hold 100 people comfortably. They have benches on the inside, and the cost is about $150,000 for one. My suggestion and consideration would be to look and consider one for stamping ground by the EMS station. We own that property. And then another one would be on the south end of the county, on the Lyle Road area. We'd have to partner with someone to give us an easement to place it there. I just want you all to think about that. I do think that severe weather has shifted more towards our area than in the past. It's something I'd like you to think about.
No, but I mean.
I've got a basement.
We're coming to your basement.
I've got a basement.
No, but
But not everybody has
how do
that.
But how do you, if it's 100 people, how do you?
It's a start in my mind. You know, you look out there, and you know, if you don't start somewhere, you know. I was trying to target the most susceptible areas, and the Stamping Ground EMS station is just short distance from that trailer park, and then of course Lyle Road. You know, there's probably 500 units out there, but if you put one, maybe come back in a year and put another one. You know, I drove through South Alabama about a month and a half ago, and you see these a lot in South Alabama now.
I've never heard of it before.
And I shared the link with Alvin, and I'll share the link with everyone else so you can look at it. All they can say is no.
Get 100% of what you don't ask for.
No, I'm being serious. I mean, I never would say no to asking them.
There's plans on the website where they actually link two of them, have a connecting corridor between the two, if you're wanting more than the 100 or whatever.
You can
it is.
daisy chain them, kind of.
Hey, Dwayne, are they building a storm shelter? Is that in the plans for the new high school? That's what I thought. Yeah.
Morgan County High School has it.
Well, every school now, every new build.
They're building two in Madison County right
More than
now.
just your normal, basic setting.
But
If we were to do these, my question is, and that could be worked out, but it's who's going to unlock it, who's going to maintain it, because it's got to
So-
stay locked unless we
No.
storm. 'cause
no, the
fact-
placement there by the EMS station, that one's, but the one on Lyle Road,
Yeah.
we would have to have some type of, and the main thing these are for, in my mind, like what happened in Mayfield, you see that coming. You know it's coming. And there's going to be people that would go to that ahead of time and wait it out to pass. But Mike Hennigan would have to help answer that question. Mike is also working to confirm, locations of all our current shelters, and he's getting ready to share an update on that with us and the community as well. Come on in. As we move down through there, I think we can move off of fire and look real quick at our EMS. Let's try to.
I'm putting my old one up.
EMS has some, significant changes, and some of it is the result of our request for, setting up the education program with BCTC. There's a request for an education coordinator that would help with training not only our staff but with the BCTC program. There is an additional $150,000 in this that is essentially a chassis remount. That remount takes the old truck off, it sets the box down on a new one. That's $150,000, and it's needed. And then in this request, they've made a request to do a lease program for 5 vehicles for admin and they're essentially, they chase the ambulance to the scene. I think they could survive with doing part of those 5. They requested 5. I think if we could look at 2.
Yeah, 2 of those are really older and really high mileage.
Yeah.
The other 3 were not that old.
Yeah.
And my thought was, we don't need to do 5 at once. We need to stagger them so that somebody,
So if we did 2, and then the possibility does exist of repurposing a vehicle from animal control that's only got about 20,000 miles. That's a Suburban. They've requested, animal control requested an F-250. And that would be a possible solution that get them down the road. There's also some money in here for mannequins and monitors, and then 3 bikes for their mobile team at festivals and such that's in there. So that I wanted to share the information about the difference in last year to this year. And then let's over this week try to answer any questions that you all have. If you have any questions for Chris is really great at answering and providing the rationale. I would propose we take a 10-minute break and come back at 7 and go from there. Anybody object?
No.
All right.